Hi everyone, welcome to today's class. Today we're going to see the continuation of strategic management. Okay, so in this we have seen the strategic choices. So the process of a strategic choice. So under this, the first one, focusing on alternatives. So the aim of the step is to narrow down that choice to the manageable number of feasible strategies. So it can be done by visualizing a future state or working backwards from it. So the managers generally use a gap analysis for this purpose. By reverting to business definition, it helps the managers to think in a structured manner along any or more dimensions of the business. Okay, so based on this, it has a two dimensions. The first one is a corporate level strategic alternatives, which is expansion, stability, retrenchment. Okay, and the combination. Then business level strategic alternatives means cost leadership, differentiation, and focused business strategy. And the second one is analyzing the strategic alternatives. So the alternatives have to be subjected to a thorough analysis, so which rely on certain factors known as selection factors. So these selection factors determine the criteria on the basis of which the evaluation will take place. Okay, they are follows: objective factors and subjective factors. So objective means these are based on analytical techniques, so which is hard facts used for facilitate strategic choices. Subjective factors means this there are based on one's personal judgment, so which is collective or descriptive factors like that. Okay, then third one is evaluation of strategies. So evaluation of strategies means each factor is evaluated for its capability, okay, to help the organization to achieve its objectives. This step involves bringing together analysis carried out on the basis of the subjects and objective factors. So this successive iterative steps of analyzing different alternatives lie at the heart of such evaluation and making strategic choices. Okay, so by this, which means it is the strategic choice must lead to a clear assessment because of alternatives, so which is the most suitable alternatives under the existing conditions. So a blueprint has to be made out that will describe the strategies and conditions under which it operates. Contingency strategies must be also devised. Okay, the next one is the factors in determining corporate preferences. What are the factors will determine? So in another is the first one is elements critical for a growth. So based on the your stated minded and mission and vision, these are able to pinpoint the influencing factors which is required to achieve your missions. So elements such as target audience, location, reputation, distribution, pricing, product uniqueness, and or a few things to consider. And the next one is issues affecting your industry, so which includes opportunities, threats, how you might leverage and minimize them to achieve your mission and vision. Okay, third one is channels for distribution. So this is a pinpointing how your target audience currently purchases similar products or services, so which is including how they will likely obtain them in the future, will be key factors in deciding your distribution channels. Oh, this is by far is the most rapid changing influencer of a business strategies in today's market due to the explosion of the technology. And the next one is strengths and weakness of your business. So which recognizing factors that contributed to your business success. So as well as those that have limited business growth play an important role in crafting business strategies that serve the test of time. And then final factors limiting growth or profitability. So no one really likes to look at or admit to factors that maybe limit, reduce, bottleneck business growth. So yet this is likely one of the most significant reasons for identifying your business strategies. And the next one is managerial philosophy, so which means this philosophy is a set of beliefs or rules, so which is used by the managers to help them make decisions. So it looks simple enough, but remember that this is also philosophy, so that means there is always another layer. So don't worry, I won't answer you within a questions. So by this the extra layer refers the meaning and the reason as to why you would choose to use those rules. Okay, then, under this management theories, the first one is a scientific theory of Frederick W. Taylor. Okay, so he told the key is to approach or rely on three factors. Okay, three factors which are follows: simplify tasks such as much as possible. Okay, simplify task as much as possible, divide work equally, and use monetary incentives. The next one is the administrative theory of Henry Foyle. So, okay, Henry Foyle mainly told the managers was the most important part of an organization. Okay, so the more prepared they are, the more the organization will prosper. And the next one is the Bureaucratic theory by Max Weber. Okay, uh, this bureaucratic theory means a strict order to clear rules is what makes an organization successful because everyone knows what they are supposed to do. Okay, the next one is the human relations theory by Elton Mayo. So, which means an organization is made from a people who must work with each other. So, by creating a positive relations between them, the whole organization believes benefits. Okay. The next one is the systems theory by Ludwig von Beethoven. Okay, an organization is a system with many different parts, and like any systems, so each part must act in harmony to make the system work. And finally, the X and Y theory by Douglas McGregor. Okay, Douglas McGregor means there are two ways of understanding employee motivation. Okay, the first one is theory X sees the worker as a lazy, selfish, need for constant supervision. Theory Y means who sees the workers as a motivational individual, so that can be trusted. The next one is types of management philosophy. Oh, philosophy. Okay, it's a spelling error. So based on this, what it means management philosophies organize your business in specific goals and governs all areas of your company. So different philosophies direct each aspects of your business. So which include overall organization of your company. Based on this, the first one is working toward maximum efficiency. So, which means this approach will focus on how a business is organized. The power structure is between a management and employees and the division of labor within a company. So, the organizational philosophy asks the question, how should the work of a business be divided for a maximum efficiency? And the next one, motivating your employee. And this is focused on methods to inspire employees to improve performance. So, which is to accept personal responsibility from their work. So, which work towards overall success of their company. So, this motivational philosophy seeks to develop a work environment which promotes strong employee-driven ideals. So, as an example, the goal work philosophy holds that if an employee or a high goal, the knowledge how to reach those goals. And the next one is managing a crisis. So, which means companies use crisis management techniques when someone goes in a wrong in their business. So, this philosophy is focused on identifying potential dangers, planning for those dangers, and responding to them with a clear goal once the problem occurs. Okay, they begin with a careful assessment of potential dangers by assessing them and suggesting methods for reducing the impact of future dangers. The next one is understanding your customer relationships, which means this consumer philosophy is focused on a way your customer relates to your company. So these philosophies include transactional marketing and relationship marketing, mixed marketing philosophies. The next one is management theories and a concept at the workplace. So what are the theories they have for they are following? So, okay, the concept. So whether they are motivating employees, making decisions, allocating resources, negotiating deals, or managers or vital for a business. So these managers have to be an integral factors for a business success since the industrial revolution. And this management theories have been developed and the use since the management first become a standard part of a business practices. So while older theories still hold the relevant. So under this, the first one is concepts. So what are the concepts they are following for? So based on this means this is the theory all revolved in a similar concepts. So these are expected handly processes, people, information, other duties as necessary. So the manager may need to motivate the subordinate employees or to determine how the best to improve the operational processes. Okay, the next one, where did management theories originate, where it is from? Okay, it is from a mass production and industrial revolution brought about a new requirements for managing people process. So as companies began to grow in size and production, business owners increasingly needed a managers so to run their daily operations. This prior to the industrial revolution, so only a few organization militaries required the theories for a management. Next one, how are management theories classified? So based on this, these certain management theories have become integral to modern business practices. So there are three major classifications for management theories. The first one is a classical management theory and behavioral management theory, modern management theory. So these classifications represent different era in the morning. So based on this, the first one is classical management theory, which is the oldest management. This theory focuses on operation and creation of a standards to increase the production or output. So in this, the classical management theory compensation is considered in a primary motivation for employees. So, a manager practicing classical management theory would be focused on improving output, so which is rewarding high performing employees through the wages or bonus. And the next one is scientific management theory. So, this is the very early management theory which is focused on a minimizing waste and reducing production times. Okay. The next one is administrative management theory. So this was developed by Henry Fayol. Okay, so who's considered a founder of management theory. So this theory considers all of the many activities of a business must conduct. So this is considered as a primary business activity, administrative. Then bureaucracy theory. So this promotes a reason to guide the management decisions rather than charisma, a nepotism, and developed by sociologists. Okay, so this theory emphasizes formal authority systems. Next, behavioral science theory. So which means it is based on increasingly complex industries organization gave rise to more interest in the workplace. So the management theories began to include more people originated methods, so that the human behavior satisfying interpersonal needs of employees become more central to the management. And the next one is human relations theory. So human relations theory means, so I have skipped, I think so. So next one is sorry, for a behavioral science theory it has two types. Okay, so the first one is human relations, second one is behavioral science. So human relations means which is considered organization as a social entity. So this is requires the money alone is not enough to the satisfy employees. Correct. So then the next one is a behavioral science theory, so which combines elements of psychology, sociology, and provide a scientific basis. So which examine why employees are motivated by a specific factors such as social needs, conflicts, self-actualizations. So based on this next six modern management theory, so which means it is to navigate constant change and change their complexities. Okay, this technology is an element that can change up and business very rapidly. So the modern management theory seeks to incorporate these elements with the human traditional theories. So a manager practicing modern management theory might use statistics to measure performance and encourage cross-functional cooperations. So under this, it has a three major modern theories. The first one is a quantitative. So these means arise out of the need for managerial efficiency during the World War II. So it was developed using experts from multiple scientific disciplines to solve the issues around the integrated system of people, material, and systems. The next one is system theory. So which means it is a views management as interrelated component of the organization, which is to instead of viewing organization as a series of silos. So each department is a part of overall system or a organization. This management must support the goals and process flows that serve an overall organization health. Okay. The next one is contingency theory. So which it means this was developed by sociologist after she examined why some companies performed better than others. So she found that high performing organization make better use of technology and the managers made better decisions in a situational context. So this theory recognized the effective the managers must be adaptable to unique situation. Sorry for the interruption. In the circumstances. And the next one is social responsibility. So this social responsibility means it is a business in addition to maximize shareholders value must act in a manner that benefits society. So this social responsibility has become increasingly important to investors and consumers who seeks investment that are not just profitable but also contribute to the welfare of the society and environment. So based on this, it has critics argue does not consider a society as a stakeholders. Okay, under this the first one, social responsibility. So which means that a business in addition to maximizing shareholders value. Second one is critics assets. Okay, these are the aspects. So the critic assets means is being socially responsible to the opposite of a why business exists. Then socially responsible companies should adopt the policies that promote the well-being of a society environment while lessening negative impacts. And then finally, companies can act responsibly in many ways, such as promoting volunteering, making changes that benefit the environment, and engaging the charitable giving. And the next one is areas of social responsibility. So areas of social responsibility, it's mainly in four areas. Okay. The first one is economic aspects. So which means the companies need to maintain a strong economic interest to they can stay in a business. So being profitable and providing value of shareholders is a part of company being socially responsible. The second one is legal aspects. So which means a company must follow the law, have a legal obligations to do so. For example, car companies are required to meet a certain level of emission standards in car productions. And third one is ethical aspects. So which is acting ethically means going above and beyond the legal requirements and meeting the expectations of a society. Next one, sorry, it's gone. So next one is philanthropic aspects. So which means it is an expectation that companies should give back to the society in the form of charitable donations of time, money, goods, some organizations. Okay. Oh, these are the things. So next one is a corporate governance. Okay, so corporate governance means it is a system of rules, practices, process by which a firm is directed and controlled. So this is the government essentially involves balancing the interest company many stakeholders such as shareholders, senior management, and customers, suppliers, financiers, the government, and the community. So since the corporate governance are also provides the framework for attaining company's objectives, so which encompasses practically every sphere of a management, from action plans and internal controls to perform measurements and corporate disclosures. So based on this, this corporate governance means it is a combination of rules, process of laws, LAW, okay? So by which business are operated, regulated and controlled. The definition we're gonna see. So based on an article of Financial Times, okay, 1997, they have given the corporate governance, which can be defined narrowly as a relationship of a company to its shareholders, or more broadly as its relationship to the society. It's an as simple, okay. Corporate governance is defined narrowly the relationship from a company to shareholders or company to society. So this is a simple thing, you can easily get that. So then next one is the principles. Okay, principles of a corporate governance. The first one is ethics. A company must observe ethical standards. Deviation from ethical principles corrupts organizational culture, undermines stakeholders' value. And the next one is transparency. So which involves the explaining of a company's policies, actions to those to whom it owns responsibilities. Transparency leads to appropriate disclosures without envying. Okay. The next one is accountability. So which signifies that the board of directors are accountable to shareholders and management is accountable to the board of directors. So our shareholders accountability provides inputs to the performance. And uh, trusteeship. So which is the principle of a trusteeship is a board of directors who must act to protect and enhance shareholders and other stakeholders value. So based on the Mahatma Gandhi has advocated this principle. Okay, the next one is empowerment. So this unleashes creativity and innovation throughout the organization by truly vesting so the decision making power at the most appropriate levels in the organization hierarchy. And the next one is fairness to all stakeholders. Stakeholders means shareholders. Okay, it involves a fair equitable treatment of stakeholders who participated in the corporate government structures. And the next one is oversight. So which means existence of a system of a checks and balances. Okay, so it should prevent the misuse of power, facilitate timely management to respond to change and risk. The next one is external audit. So it must be independent and penetrating. And regulatory regime. Regulatory regime means this must be an appropriate regulatory regime. It is a back of these obligations. And finally, whistleblower policy. So which means the company should adopt a policy of for whistleblowers. This was specifically recommended by the committee. Okay, so these are the principles of corporate governance. The first ethics, transparency, accountability, trusteeship, empowerment, fairness to all stakeholders, oversight, external audit, regulatory regime, whistleblower policy. These are the principles of corporate governance. So by this class is over. We'll meet you all in the next class with the next topic. Take care all. Thank you.